On this week's episode of That Sound podcast, we have drum connoisseur, drummer, Ireland's own Micheal Quinn. Micheal, an absolute pleasure to have you. Thank you for taking the time out of your evening to chat with us.
How are you doing?
Not so bad. How have you been, man? Things have been busy.
Things have been busy. The last couple of weeks I've been in recovery mode, I think. Because previous to that, I was out with And So I Watch You from Afar, and that was sick, but that was 23 shows in 22 days. And I got like really sick in the middle of it, but still had to keep going with the shows. So once that was all done, once I got home to bed, I was like, fuck, I'm done. Like I am wrecked here. And I've just been piecing myself together after that.
Cool, cool. I'm sure with a jam-packed schedule like that, it takes some time to recover. There's
Oh,
definitely a
100.
necessity for downtime. But I would say that there are also a certain amount of tools that you need in the box while on tour to perform within that structure.
Oh, 100%. It's funny. It's like you have to have this structure that taps you out of being your normal everyday self and you transition into being the drummer on stage. And it's for me, I've built this whole it's like a regiment that begins at like 6 p.m. in the day. And once it starts, I like just slowly drift in and then you just drop any of your normal day self. It's like, fuck, I'm tired. Like, how am I going to do this gig? And it starts off with just some pad work. And once you're a few minutes in, you're just like, all right, doesn't matter what was going on today. Like, there's a job to do tonight. And I fucking love doing what I'm doing and I want to do it to the best of my ability. So you don't have a choice here. You got to get ready. And, but it's this whole process of like practice pad stuff, then physical stretching, then playing the tunes, then some more physical stuff. And then you're kind of, well, then I'm in the headspace to go do a gig. But doing it every day, it became like really useful because I'd be just wrecked. I'm like, fuck, how am I going to do this? And then 6 o'clock hits and you're just like, all right, in we go. And it just starts happening itself. And you just kind of let go and let it do its thing. And then all of a sudden you're up on stage. You're like, oh, I guess we're doing it again. Yeah.
Brilliant. It's great that you have some of those tools and what should I say, a bit of grounding and
Yeah, because you do. You have to get into your body to do the gig properly, and you have to get out of the tiredness. But also, like I'm very lucky with all the touring I've done. I've had loads of trial and error over the years, and loads of time to build up this thing. And then there was a point a couple of years ago with a therapist where we started to have to pull me away from the drums a little bit, and like my identity that was entirely wrapped up in the drums had to be pulled apart. And I think it's been a really good thing to have this routine to get into being a drummer because it means I can kind of then live the rest of my life and be like, right, I'm just a person, I'm just moving around, like, and then in we go, and you fully identify and become the thing again.
that's so cool that you say that. And I had a moment, a light bulb switch moment, talking to the late great Aaron Spears. So God
Yeah.
rest Aaron Spears, but we had a chat with him one time as part of a masterclass, and he spoke about that. He was like, a lot of people, or you guys in the drum world, see me as a drummer. And he's like, I'm not just a drummer. And he was explaining that he was going to take his son to his mother's, so his grandmother's, his son's grandmother, for dinner, and they were going to go out for ice cream and what they were going to do for the weekend. He's like, I'm a son, I'm a husband, I'm a dad. He's like, I want
No
to
way.
watch movies, I want to build Lego, I love to go on bike rides, I love to go for ice cream, I love to watch the Redskins. All of this stuff where he's like, you guys see me as a drummer. And he's like, I'm more than that. He said, I'm just human. And he said, this is what I do more than playing drums. He said, you guys just don't get to see that as much as you do me playing drums.
Isn't it funny that like one of the greatest ever do it is like this is the way everybody. But then we're all as a community so wrapped up in drums and being drummers. I'm like, why? Why are
Yeah,
we? And then the greatest is like I can dip out of it. Um, yeah, why do we get so niggly on it?
yeah. It's going down a whole other road, isn't it? I feel like I could talk about this for ages. It's like detaching from the ego of the self or the player.
Uh-huh.
You got to take yourself away as the player, or Micheál the drummer, or Luke the drummer. If people have seen you as the drummer, or if you identify as the drummer, or if people feel that's the only thing they're good at, then they really got to hold on to it, or
Yeah, true. And
clutch the
then I guess,
straw.
yeah, yeah. And if you're putting it out there and you're doing that, people start to recognize you as that because it's the way that, and as a drummer, you're drumming as much as you can. So other people identify you with it. So then maybe, yeah, you get wrapped. And then there's a community of us who are all, it's not like guitars and stuff, the way we all band around together. There's no real competition. It's more just like, what did you figure out? What did you figure out? So I guess it becomes easy then to, yeah, identify with the whole thing. But it does seem like a more productive approach to tap out of it. And then when game time comes, be like, right now I'm 100% able to be this thing and embody this. And because it doesn't have to last forever. So you're just like, right, this isn't going to last forever. Like, give it a shot now.
Yeah, let's dive in. You got to jump in to swim.
Man, I love that it's Aaron Spears of all people who said that because he has such a rep for being like the kindest and warmest guy. And then be like, oh, and he lives like, or he lived like that as well.
Yeah,
It's very cool.
he was so cool. He talked for another 15, 20 minutes about honesty. And he was like, man, you got to be
It does,
really
doesn't it?
honest with yourself and honest in life. He's like, if you're not honest with yourself and honest in life, he said, you can't be honest on the kit. And I'm sure that went over a lot of people's heads, but I was like, man,
That's
that's next
good.
level. That's cool. I was like, that's a good way to be.
Yeah, and if he's just living like that, like if he just is that way, what a inspiration.
Yeah, man, a real loss to the drum community. What a legend.
That was a big like, whoa. He seemed just omnipresent.
Did you get to meet him, Micheál, over the years?
Yeah, I remember him doing drum clinics back in the day in Dublin. I met him at one of those, certainly one of them. And then at Coachella, he had like just moved over to Sonar a few months before, and he was playing the same stage. No, he wasn't. He was playing with Ariana Grande in the main stage. He just happened to be at our stage. I think he knew the drummer before or after me.
Cool.
And I was like, dude, I play Sonar as well. Like, let's go look at the drums. And he was like all about it. And yeah, he just hung out for a while and we looked at the drums and then I got to tell him why I was so stoked on him being part of Sonar. And then he let me know what he thought about Sonar and he nailed it. He was like, look, I love them all. I love all the different drums. And he said what was good about them. And then he's like, but Sonar just do all of that and more. And you're like, oh, he was just a dude. Just like, yeah, very, very. And I think he could tell how excited I was to meet him. And he just gave me his time as a result. It was wonderful. Yeah.
There is that unanimous thing with drummers across the board that a lot of them are super cool.
I think so. Yeah, I think we're awesome.
Yeah, a different breed, just happy to be here, happy to chill, happy to talk drums all day long, all day, every day.
I can see Kieran, the bassist with Dermot, just looking at me laughing right now, be like, you're fucking insane. You guys are all crazy.
We are. We are. I might as well
Yeah,
admit it. People say
I
that to
started
me.
saying I started saying oh, at some point during one of the tours, I started being like, man, I think being a drummer is like like we have a mental illness. That rhythm is the medicine for it. I don't know if that's unacceptable to say or not to, but you know what I mean.
You know when people say that, it's like, oh gosh, I just feel like a lunatic today. I'm like, yeah, that I feel like that every day because I am. It's like that.
Yeah, like, but I
That's
have the
just the
drum.
way it is. On the
Oh,
topic of sonar, Micheál, yourself being a connoisseur of sonar drums, I know you've been rocking with them for a long time. What was it that made you choose sonar from the get-go?
it wasn't even me. It was a friend of my mum's from the town she grew up in who played the drums. And she got in touch with him to buy a drum kit for me because I was using my dad's mate's kit. And he was an expert in it. So she was like, Gary, what do you think? And he was like, I'll get the drum kit. I'll sort it out. And he went up north to, is it Mr. Whatever the drum shop is the north. There's a famous old drum shop.
I
I
think there
can't
was a
remember.
guy called Mr. Drum, wasn't it?
It
Or
was, yeah, it was something like
I
that
think
simple.
so,
Yeah.
yeah.
So he went to him and he got a Sonar kit. And he came back, and so that was the kit I got. And he just instilled in me. He was like, "Look, you don't realize it yet, but this is an extraordinary drum kit. This isn't like the rest of the drum kits." And I I had that kit up until from like I think I was 14 when I got it, and I had it up until 27, and that was my only drum kit. And I was just like, "This is it. This is all you need." And it just sounded so good. And anytime I played at places, people would always compliment it and like tell you how good it sounded. And I had such a good relationship with it. Like I learned how to play on that and that alone. So then by the time I came around to getting a new kit, I was like, look, I am just so deep in on Sonar already. Like nothing, it was like the sky is blue. The drum kit in front of me was a Sonar drum kit. And I remember someone being like, we can get you a Gretsch endorsement because they knew the people. And I was just like, no, I don't want an endorsement. Like, I'm not looking for an endorsement. I want Sonar drums. Um, and then, yeah, we got in touch with them because we were going out on tour and we were like, do you want to like take Micheal on? Or I can't remember how exactly it went down. I think I might have even bought a drum kit. And I was like, look, guys, I'm buying the stuff anyway. And then they were like, all right, we'll start endorsing you or whatever the way you say that is. But no, it was the only drums I played. Nothing else ever made me feel the way my first. It was a Sonar S class, and
Cool.
nothing made me feel the way that one did. It just I don't I don't know if it was in my head or not, but I was like, this is the best sounding drum kit I ever play. Um, and I just trusted it then. And then it turned out Sonar were really fucking cool and really sound and really into drums and really into people who were into drums. Like obviously, but also it was such a nice surprise. Like, oh, they're also the loveliest people going.
That's absolutely super cool that you said that in regard to you wanted to play Sonar drums. I don't think people understand how important that is. That, we can get you an endorsement with Gretsch and you're like, I want to play Sonar. Sticking to your guns and doing what you want to do,
True.
without the
Yeah.
monetary value, you're not willing to compromise on creativity or that sound to you.
No, or at least I find it very difficult to compromise. So I've learned how to compromise over the, again, with great help from my therapist, learning how to compromise and learning the healthiness of compromising. But there are certain things that, like, I remember one day him asking me about, like, if you could set up like a company and end up doing a thing with Skechers, even though you really want to do Adidas, would you do Skechers? And I was just like, no. And he was like, Micheal, you're missing like a very fundamental thing. But there's just something in me that's just like, nah, if I get it in my head that it's cool, then I'm just like, well, that's one plus one is two. That just is cool now. And that's that. And I think if you're focused like that, it gives you goals that become reachable. So the way I was like, look, I want to play Sonar. That's all I want to do. It was very single-minded and focused, so it meant it was actually easier to get in and become very intimate with the company and the drums because I had the blinders on. And I think there's things in life that you probably should put the blinders on to be able to just be like, fuck it, there's a million choices, whatever, I'll pick this one. Um, but yeah, there's something in me that just gets these ideas. It's the same with Remo, Vic Firth, Sabian, and Sonar. I had it in my head that that was the team, and I just worked towards it. I was like, nah, that I don't want Promark. They're all great and everything does everything, but just I don't know. I don't know what it is. I was just like, that's what the visual of it all. It was just the picture.
I think that is a drummer thing, and I have a similar instance where I had a green sparkle DW kit. One I would have actually sent you pictures of ages ago, as the rumor was it was used for a clinic in the SFX the night before Slane back in the early 2000s.
Was this the one Taylor Hawkins used?
Supposedly Taylor, Chad Smith, Graham Hopkins, and someone else had played on it. Now,
I remember you telling me this. You know, you could. I think Ronan O'Reilly was at that SFX gig.
we had the
He
crack.
certified.
We had the crack about it, and I think he actually owned the kit for a while. And
Of
that
course he did.
that's where it came up, was like, is it that kit? And I'm like, I don't know, but I think so. And I sold it reluctantly because I wanted a green sparkle kit, but I wanted a green sparkle Tama kit, like Lars Ulrich's kit in the early 2000s when I fell in love with drums. And I have it here in the studio. So it's like I eventually got one, but the other one had to go. And not that there was any problem with DW, they sounded absolutely great, but it wasn't the Tama Green Star Classic Maple. So I wasn't going to settle till I got it. So maybe that's just a drummer thing.
Yeah, maybe. Funny, I don't know. I wouldn't have been able to get rid of that kit. When it comes to drum stuff, I hoard. If I get it, I'm like, how am I supposed to get rid of this now? So
Yeah,
yeah, it all just adds
that
up.
that's a funny one. I know that it is across the board another thing with drummers, but feel I have this thing, Micheál, that it's like if I don't love something with the drums, they gotta go because there's so many nice drums and so many people would be just in their element to have certain things that I could have or another collector could have sitting on the shelf. And I'm sure you know that as well. If you saw a collection and you're like, that guy never plays that drum, I love it. Why won't he just sell it? You
True,
know, it's
true. Okay, yeah, you're adding to the good karma of the whole situation.
yeah, gotta let them sail on. Well, you were saying that you had that S class sonar from you were 14. I was gonna ask you, when did you start to play?
I was 10, and it was up in the Artane School of Music where the Artane Boys Band were, but I didn't do the band. I was just in like where they taught drum lessons or any instrument lessons. But I remember I wanted to learn the guitar. That was the vibe because I was like, oh man, guitar solos, like that'd be the coolest thing in the world. And of all instruments, they didn't teach guitar at the time. They didn't have a guitar teacher.
No way.
Yeah, so I remember the pamphlet my mum gave me. I was outside the bathroom and she was like, "Here you go, pick an instrument off that." And I just scrolled down and I saw the word drums, and I was like, "That's what I'll do. The drums, okay." Um, and that was that. But I remember instantly loving it. I think it was I did singles, doubles, and paradiddles in my first lesson. And when I got to paradiddles, I was like, "Whoa, whoa! Like, what is this?" And my teacher was quite cool as well. He was like a young dude who played the drums, and like it was just chill. But yeah, I fell in love with it instantly. So I was 10, and then I played the snare drum up until I was 12, and then I got my hands on a kit.
Cool.
Yeah, yeah.
That's a great base. Starting off with those rudiments and getting your hands working.
Yeah, it's funny. I never even like when I look back, I'm like I'm so lucky that that was the way I did it. And it never crossed my mind that I could go play a drum kit when I was doing the snare stuff because I was just so buzzed on that and I wanted to be really good at it. And then the drum kit was introduced, and I was like, "Whoa! Like, there's more? Okay." But yeah, I think it probably built a foundation because by the time I sat down at the kit for 2 years, I had been doing stick work, and then you just bring in your legs, and you're like, "Okay." And now I love rudiments. Like, I love sitting around and just playing rudiments for ages and ages. Uh, so I think yeah, all that was good for me.
That's unreal. That seems to be fairly present in your creativity when it comes to drum parts. I know, is it the bit everyone likes to ask you about in After Rain or Glory? Is it After
No, it's
Rain?
I think it's moments past. Is
Moments
it the
past,
Alan
even.
hi-hat
Yeah,
bit?
is it a double paradiddle? Or
Man, someone asked me the other day. I was like, I don't know. It's what is it? Because
I
I
know
went to
you've.
write it down.
Yeah, you had an Instagram post about it, what the sticking was.
Yeah, but then someone called me and was like, "That's not the stick," and I was like, "Well, I don't know. I just do it." But anything that comes out of me that's anyway kind of cool is generally some version of a paradiddle or a double paradiddle or something like that. So that one is it's four semiquavers then a paradiddle, one unit. Eh, I don't know. I like if I broke it down, it'd be easy to write it out, but I've never bothered. And when I try play it slow, I can't quite do it. So if this is because of how many times you've played it, and it's to a click, it's to a grid. If you were to put on a metronome and I was going, I'd put money on it that that's exactly the speed of that
That's
click.
what it's on.
Yeah,
So we got to
that's
go
just
on
how that.
YouTube and use the playback feature and slow it down and figure out what's going on.
Yeah, you can search it. I've never been able to figure it out.
You
But yeah,
just
it's
play
based
it.
on a part. I just play it. And you see, it's this thing like every band I've been in since I don't know, since college, somewhere along the line gets that part because I'll always find a bit in a song. I'm like, I love this part. I think there was a band called Come On Live Long years. They were around years ago, unreal band, and I remember seeing them one night, and the drummer Steve Battle was playing this. He was just playing paradiddles on the ride and the hi-hat straight up, and I was like, "Whoa, whoa, that sounds so good!" And I just went off running with that, and every chance I get, I was doing some little paradiddle thing, and eventually, I came across that bit, and it just became like
It's
a signature
stuck.
or something.
Micheal
Yeah,
Quinn
yeah.
signature. That's
But
unreal.
then when we were learning Moments Past, I used to play it on the hi hats and I had this other part. And then one night during a show, I was just like feeling it, and I was like, "Wow!" And I was like, "Oh, that's kind of good." And realized it was a thing. And Dermot liked it, and it just fit. And I was like, "Unreal! This now has a place in Dermot's gig as well."
Oh
Um,
man, there are a lot of those moments during those shows from the drum cam footage where you just find something and it hits like that. It's just
yeah,
like a boxer connecting with a cross or a hook.
yeah. There's a bunch. I'm again very fortunate with how much we've played the set and how well you know it, so that like there's 90% of it that you can just let it happen, and then you have all this room then just to think and be creative with it. And then you have these moments where you're like, and we're zoned back in, I've done this thing a million times, and you just boom. um but yeah, it's like, because if you go back and watch early footage of it, I'm a lot slower, it's a lot more sluggish, and a lot less the tech. It's not like slick or anything, but you can see it's all there. But it was just repetition of the ideas I liked over and over and over until they became just the way they are now.
There's definitely a ferocity that you bring to your playing, and I think a lot of people, if they listen to Dermot's studio work, might think, "Oh, right, does that really call for that?" And then I see yourself and Kieran on stage, and the musicality that it brings is outrageous. Anyone who has went to see you guys play, say from 2021, 22, 23, when it was going to be the full band, I'd be like, you got to pay attention to the guy behind the kit. Like, just wait till you see what's going on here. Where did that all of that come from, Micheál, in that set?
Um, I think I think it comes from like the fact that Dermot and I go so far back. Like we met when we were 18, so it was a very formative time, and we were playing gigs. And at that point in time, I was entirely in charge of the drums. The drums were my department. I was like, I'm making all the calls over here. And obviously we'd work together, but like he was the songwriter, I was the drummer. So we got very used to that dynamic of me knowing the right decisions. Then as this phase of his career took off and he exploded, and everyone who gets involved, all the producers and musical directors and people, they all have these input on the drums, but there's something that Dermot, it's like it's probably lodged in his brain. It's like, yeah, and Michal's the drums. So I have this little bit of freedom I don't think you'd get in other gigs on that level. So being a drummer who's just the way I grew up and everything I'm interested in, I was just I love really top tier musicianship and musicality and all that. I'm obsessed with it. And normally, I think you have to put a lot of that aside for the bigger pop shows. You don't have the room for those, unless you're the Aaron Spears of the world who are doing the
Yeah, for sure.
crazy. But that's music that's like designed around that anyway. Um, but I feel like I sit in this nice pocket where we have those audiences, those sizes, but I get away with a bit more expression. And as a result of getting away with it, I'm like, well, then I got to double down on it and really like stick it to it, that I'm like, I'm doing it this way. Like I'm trying to say, let it out, like express yourself, like you show what you can do, show what you got. And there comes a great discipline with that. We have to learn when not to show as well, because I've spent a lot of time showing where I shouldn't have shown up and doing stuff and refining that and be like, oh, it doesn't call for it there. It doesn't call for it there. But I think, yeah, I think it's me and Dermot's understanding musically that allows me to just be myself. He's very aware of the sort of person I am, and I think he respects just me being like, look, I am what I am. So when it comes to a show, he's very much like, I'm not gonna get in the way of that. And for that, I'm very fortunate and grateful. Yeah.
That's very cool to have that connection when you have gone that far back that you both sort of respect each other's realms. It's like, yeah, we're gonna let Micheál do his thing up there. And you're
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
well, yeah,
very, very
you do
cool.
yours down there too.
And then as a result as well, with Kieran coming on the gig, I was kind of like, Kieran, we're allowed. Like, come on, you can do what you want. And I think he would anyway, but you never know on a gig either how to act, especially like when you're a session guy gets brought in for one, you have to figure it out. And I think once I saw he could go for it, I was like, man, you show me the way. Like, let's go. We're just egging each other on. And no one ever told us to stop along the way. If anything, it just got more and more encouraged. And even if they had tried to stop us, though, it would have been like, you're not gonna like it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen the way because we're just into music, man.
Yeah,
We like Dermot's music's really good. The production is sick. Our monitor engineer is extraordinary. The quality of the gear we have is amazing. So once you get going, you're just like, ah, this is like, it's a real treat. Yeah.
it's got an element of greatness to it because it gives people their money's worth. When you listen to a record and you go to the show, you don't necessarily want to hear the exact carbon copy because you could have just stayed at home and listened to the record. And that's not what you get when you go to see you guys. You make those songs totally your own and bring it to another level. And I think that's the ultimate compliment. When you go to see a band and they're already absolutely killer on the record and they're even better live,
Yeah,
you're like,
like 100%, I agree entirely. And I think I was raised like that as well, that I would have seen bands. My dad would bringing me to gigs from an early age. And it would have just impressed upon me, like, oh, the ones who sound like albums aren't as cool. That would have been the way I phrased it in my head.
yeah,
The ones who can go for it, like, whoa, they must be way better if they're able to just figure it out differently. Like, what an extra level to go to. So then once I got involved in playing gigs and that, I was just like, I don't want to just, we already did that and that's captured. It's almost like you want to prove it to everyone. We're like, no, we can go. Like, we can really go there. Because you can't quite, that sort of stuff is harder to capture on a record. Maybe it's not, I don't know. But there isn't as much room for it in the listener's ear. But once you get to a show, there's so much more space. And it's like you just want to give it to people. Um, so I'm very proud of the fact that, yeah, the Dermot show isn't just like the record. Because I know there are people who would be like, it should be like the record because a lot of the fans aren't musically educated enough to, they'll get lost essentially. And you don't want that, especially when it's so song based. You need to have them with you. Uh, but to be able to find the places and be like, look, they're going to be grand. If we do try this thing, like we'll get the people in the room who are really living for it, and you can't leave them out either. So you have to give it to everybody. You have to hold it down for the people who just want that backbeat. And then if there's, say you're in the crowd, it's in my head being like, all right, like Luke's out there, and I know he's probably paying attention to this bell thing. I'll give him one, and I'll do a film like, ding, there you go. Yeah,
you want to
yeah, it's
stand
just
up and go, that's for all the drummers out there.
yeah, yeah. And that is literally it. I think as well, I see my position that I've found as one of great responsibility for everyone who wishes they could be doing that. I'm like, all right, well, I'll do it for all of us then. I'll have a bit of crack the way if you're watching a show and you're like, man, imagine you did that. I'm like, well, I guess I'm in the position to now be like, well, I could do that. So I'll do it for everyone who's like, I imagine I could do that.
You
Yeah.
see a guy standing at the rail with his missus, and she's engulfed in the first part of the song that's a wee bit softer, and then as soon as you start to let it rip in the chorus of the bridge, he's kissing his teeth. You're like, that guy gets it.
Yeah, it's like you're looking for very specific nods after the gig to things. If someone says the right thing about a drum, like, oh, you were paying attention. Nice. And I'll
Yeah,
do that as well. It's like I'll put little things in for my drum tech, absolute sicko drummer as well. Stage manager, absolute sicko drummer. And they're standing beside me, and I'll be like, well, I gotta give it to the lads as well. They see this every night. Like, we gotta keep them entertained. And I'll be doing stuff to see if they notice or to get them to wig out. And because they're such good drummers, my standard of what I got to do to get them excited, I really have to show up. And
yeah.
that's only going to aid the musicality of the rest of the show as well, then. Yeah,
That's
I love
super
that.
cool too that you've got those guys stage side on your team in your corner where you're like, I'm gonna show up tonight.
Yeah. Oh, and man, then get this. So when I was on tour with And So I Watch You, I didn't have the lads, and it didn't not that didn't cross my mind, but I didn't bring it into the performance at all. That they weren't there. I was just there were times you were like, man, I wish they were here, but it wasn't such a big thing in my conscious, in my head. And but then the second last night of tour, the stage manager showed up because we were in Brighton, and he came to the gig and he sat side stage. And I played the gig like I hadn't played the gig before, and I was like, "Oh man, okay, Rory and Steve, like, they get me doing it properly." So to get to see that and to realize the how much I appreciate having them there is amazing. Because without that, not having them there, I wouldn't have known just how influential they are on me once I get up on stage.
We can't leave out the man behind the maintenance and the sound of the drums. A big shout out to Steve Moncaster,
Mr.
who
Steve.
makes those Sonar SQ2s absolutely sing.
And you know what he does as well, man? I didn't find this out for a while, but he cleans them too every now and then. So he'll give them a wipe down. And I was like, why are you doing that? Like the light, like it's all good. And he's like, it's not for anything. It's just because I want them to be the nicest they can be. And you're like, oh, that's why you fit, man. That's why
That's
this.
that's so cool. That reminds me of Bonham saying he used to get annoyed at people who didn't clean their drums.
Yes, Steve gets it. Steve is on it. And as well, Steve taught me so much about about the drum kit and about how it should sound. Like I'll call him sometimes and I'll be tuning the snare drum. I'm like, Steve, just listen to this over the phone. What should I be doing? And he'd be like, just loosen that snare and then just maybe two of the lugs in the bottom, bring them down to tight. And you do it and you're like, crack. He's like, what? He's a magician. Oh,
Oh
he's the
man, if you want to see drummers lose their head, just show up on tuning day.
on the snare.
That's an art in itself.
Oh man, yeah. I would say so how long am I into drumming? 20 something years. Only recently would I say I'm starting to learn how to tune a snare drum. Like Ronan, oh man, Ronan, Robbie, and Usheen, though. Usheen Trench, Robbie Barrett, and Ronan O'Reilly. I don't know how many drums I brought into them to tune over the years.
I
Oh,
still
they're
do it. I still do it. I bring the best of snares up to road just for the maintenance. He's like, you could have done this at home. I'm like, nah, I need those magic
ah,
hands on it, man.
Ronan has the touch. There's something in Music Maker. There's something in that drum air there.
100% in the drumjin, the lore of the drumjin and music maker.
Oh man, I did my work experience in there when I was 16. Because some lad a year ahead of me was like, I did it in Music Maker in the drum department. You should do that. And I was like, okay.
No
And it was,
way.
oh man, it was the best week ever.
So at 16, Micheál, you got into music maker for your
So smooth.
for your drum work experience, for your work
Yeah,
experience.
that's where I was. I was, yeah, a lad the year ahead of me in school told me to do it, and I was like, that sounds like a great idea. And yeah, Ronan was there the whole week, and a lad called Charlie, and Robbie came in at the end of the week. But it was mostly Ronan and Charlie that I was hanging out with. But yeah, like getting to hang out in the drumland with people coming in and out buying drum stuff all day. And then there'd be periods where there'd be no one there as well. So I'd be like, lads, can I like play the drums? And they'd be like, yeah, just not like too loud and not for too long. And you just go and have at it. And then Robbie came in the last day, and Robbie really like was just so warm and open that we like clicked a lot almost instantly. And yeah, there was a day where they gave me there was no one in, and they're like, you can just go through all the drumsticks and see which one you like. Which is like I don't know if you'd do that. I certainly wouldn't have done that if I wasn't didn't have a reason to be in there. I'd be too shy to stand there and just go through all the sticks. And yeah, I found the Buddy Rich pair at some point, and it was just game over. I'd gone through loads and loads of sticks, and I was like, these ones are the right weight. I like that they're a little bit longer than the other sticks. I love the way the end looks. I love the way the end sounds, and actually, I got to run around the shop and try sticks and all the different stuff as well. So I'm like, all right, it sounds like this and this symbol. It sounds like this and this symbol. And Ronan gave me a really good piece of advice where he was like, don't buy with your eyes, don't buy with your heart, buy with your ears. Yeah, you know it. Yeah,
The
yeah.
best piece of advice that you can get. And
It's
those who know, know.
yeah. And to be a salesman and to be like, no, 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 do it this way. It's cool. And then Oisin came, I don't know when Oisin started working in Music Maker, but it was a while after that. But for some reason, me and him just clicked as if we knew each other. because I guess I was just hanging out in the shop a lot anyway. After the work experience, I was just going to Music Maker and just sitting around in the drum department. Um, but I don't know how Oisin and I got to know each other. I think it might have been I was a fan of Enemies, so I had a reason to talk to him, and I was like, man, what are you doing? Like, what is this stuff? Um, and that's it. I know she had the big hair at the time. Oh, what a legend.
His
But
hair
yeah.
was so cool at the time. I remember walking in maybe the week or the second week he got it cut, going up
Oh,
to get something,
heartbreaking
and it was
time.
like, "What, Oshin? Is that you?
Is everything okay?
Like, is everything okay?" He's like, "I know, man. Look," and I think Doc might have been working there at the time, and him and someone else, was probably everyone's go-to line. The two guys were just sniggering, like, "Oh, here another guy mentioning the war for poor Oshin."
But it was iconic. He was iconic. Sitting behind the drums with that head of hair on him.
Man,
Legend.
what a killer player!
Oh, one of the best. One of the best to ever come from the country. Yeah.
So
It was funny
through,
actually. So
sorry, go on ahead. Yeah,
when I joined Enemies, I remember like getting down a bunch of the tunes, and I had them all, had the drum parts all right, everything was good. And I remember at the end of like we ran a set, and I don't know was it Mark or Louis or Owen, maybe it was all of them. It was probably a unanimous agreement, but they were like, "Nah, you're playing the parts, but like it's not right." And I remember just being like, "Yeah, well that's because I'm not Usheen. Like you got to give me a break here. That guy is Usheen." And it was such good practice to be like, all right, just playing the parts isn't enough. There's like a whole other level to get to here. And it wasn't that they wanted me to just sound like Usheen. They were very clear on that. But they were like, it's not like Usheen played them. Usheen like gave them life. And that was kind of why they were interested in having me because they'd seen me with Meltybrains and Slow Skies. And they were like, you kind of push yourself into them. You do your thing in it. And we're looking for that because Usheen is so that we need someone else in a different direction who's so that. Um, so Enemies was really good for that. And it was just, yeah, Oshin just holding the light, showing me the way. Yeah.
just as a man in general, an absolute legend.
Ah, just the best. And then yeah, it made it was really wonderful to learn all his songs and to have that this intimate relationship with him where I was like, I know the things you're thinking for drum parts. Now that I've like studied them and learned them, I hear music with a sense of the way it was like he taught me how to rehear music just by having to play his drum parts. Yeah.
That's
Absolute legend.
that's a
Absolute.
super cool experience to be open to when you have something like that that changes how you hear things and you bring a new ear to it.
Oh
That,
yeah,
that that's something else.
yeah. You gotta, because if you're just trying to replicate it, it's like well, someone else already did that, and if you wanted to hear that, they would listen to that. I don't know though. It's also just like just do your thing. Just do your thing. If someone's asked you to do something, I think it's well within your right. All right, well, you asked me to do it, so this is. And if you want to push the person in direction, then you start doing that with them. But I think the initial entry point is if you've been asked there to do it within reason, what the gig is. Do it your way until someone starts dealing with it. Oh, you're frozen.
Yeah, the audio went there for a minute. Let me try it again. This is I don't know what's holy. Oh, here. Let me see what's happening. What's good in the hood? We got no signal.
Oh,
Um,
on both of it or just on the mic?
continue recording. Let me see. What have we got going on? Right. I am going to plan B. Let me see. Can you hear me there now? Okay.
Yeah, I got you.
Let me just plug headphones into the Mac and we'll go from there. This does not happen. This is like have horrible experience with the lady that you've wanted to get with for ages, and you're like, I swear this does not happen. It's like this is never happens like this.
I've been given a few drum lessons on Zoom, and this shit happens to me all the time. My lesson will just cut off. I'm like, oh, I didn't sign in, and then like I'll be talking for a few minutes, and then be like, I didn't get any of that. I'm like, oh, oops.
And it's a pain in the ass, isn't it, when you're trying to work with these things at times. And I don't know what it is. if it's like the dough just won't work for you or something, you're like, man, you are just breaking my heart this evening.
And for what feels like no real reason.
Ah, you just gotta roll with it. You gotta roll with it. I'm gonna get back into this by asking you the records and players who would have influenced you, Micheál, as you were growing up playing the drums.
Well, we have Taylor Hawkins. We have Taylor Hawkins shining bright. That was I was like 12 in sixth class, and it was Christmas. And I remember I was going into town, and we were going into HMV, and I had like gotten some money for Christmas. I was like, I want to buy my own CD. I want to pick a CD myself and buy it. And I don't know if I knew I had gotten Nirvana, the greatest hits for Christmas, but I don't know if I knew Dave Grohl was Nirvana and Foo Fighters. I don't know if that was in my head or not. But I picked up One by One anyway, and that was the album I bought for myself. And I went home, and it was the first time I had ever like paid attention to drumming on a record. It just caught me so much. I was like, what is all this? Just so many ideas, so many parts. I always say it sounds like a guy driving a red and white hot rod who's just doing like handbrake turns around the place. That's what his drum is like. I was like, this is as cool as it gets. But it was yeah, it's just like
Oh, what an awesome analogy.
just like the end of Have It All. Listen to the end of Have It All and tell me that doesn't sound like someone who's just so in control of the coolest fucking car you've ever seen. Um, but yeah, I'd been listening to loads of rock music before that. My dad, here we go, shout out my dad. Dad raised me, like, I think at like 2 years old, we were on some family trip and I was a baby, and he was just blasting AC/DC in the car. Obviously, he was like, I want my kids into cool music. And this is what he thought was cool music, which is. And so it was a lot of AC/DC, a lot of Thin Lizzy, a lot of Alice Cooper, Deep Purple. They're the ones I remember the most.
Jeez, that man skipped the introduction with soft drinks and beer. He went straight to the top shelf.
Straight to hard liquor.
Oh
It's like,
man,
this is the guitar solo, son.
what a legend.
100%. And yeah, whenever so dad comes to loads of gigs along the way. He's been to so many shows, as is my mum. But dad really shows up in all sorts of places. And like everyone loves him. He loves being around bands. He thinks they're the coolest people going. Um and he gets so proud of me, which is a wonderful thing to be part of, to get to in the moment experience. I'm like, oh, there's a father's pride. How beautiful. So I'm very lucky with that. And he loves music, and he's also really he pays attention to what I'm doing because he's gone to so many gigs through his life that he knows what he likes and knows what is good on a stage or what gets him going. And he never has any opinion on what I do, but he is very much aware of the excitement that happens around the drum kit up on stage, and he gets such a kick out of it. And I think whether I was his son or not, I think he'd be getting a kick out of it. But it's almost like he raised me specifically to be able to do that on like rock music.
Ah man, he done such a great job. I'm telling you, anyone who sees Micheál's father at a show that he's playing at, make sure to buy that man a pint or several of them.
Loads of them, a pint and some whiskey. When you get him, man, when you
Man.
get him oiled up on a little bit of whiskey, he's an absolute like, what's the word? Goofball. No, goofball's not the right word.
Oh
Just
no, no, as the Irish should say, a character.
a character. Yeah, yeah. Oh, he's a funny man. But yeah, so he had me on that. But I found Foo Fighters myself and became obsessed with Taylor Hawkins. And then I joined an orchestra. So Taylor was the first drummer that I really paid attention to. Then I joined the orchestra, and there was a drummer in sixth year, and I was in second year. His name was Simon O'Reilly. Phenomenal drummer. Him and my first drum teacher, Dave Mullen. Those two, I don't know if anyone, I like the sound hitting a snare drum as much as those two. They just, something about the way they played the snare drum was just magic. But Simon, so I was just Simon's understudy. I just sat there beside him, watching him play all the part, do the whole orchestra, and I was just doing nothing, just watching him really. And he said to me, I had to get Siamese Dream by Smashing Pumpkins and learn everything Jimmy Chamberlain was doing. And it's specifically the song Silverfuck. He was like, go home and learn that and come back to me when you can play that. And so that opened me up to Jimmy Chamberlain. So you have Taylor Hawkins, who's this whippet, like spinning sticks, flashy, pocket hard as anything, fills everywhere. Then Jimmy Chamberlain, who's rock royalty, but has this jazzness to him. He lives in this like fluttery kind of world where everything's quite light, but ferocious and just relentless. Then I was doing my first gig that was like not an orchestra, like a gig with mates, and we had to learn a bunch of tunes. And one of them was Behind Blue Eyes, and what other one? Who Are You, maybe by or Baba O'Reilly. It was a couple of the Who songs, and that was where I found Keith Moon, and I was like, "Whoa, who is this guy? Like, this is Animal from the Muppets in real life." And I was obsessed with him, obsessed with him. I was like finding concert DVDs. Like, I don't know if YouTube, yeah, YouTube was YouTube. The internet had appeared in my house anyway, so I was going off watching. There was a video of Keith Moon doing a drum solo with his drum full with a fish in it, and him blowing up his kits. And I was like, wait, you can do this stuff? Like, what's this all about?
That poor
Um,
fish.
yeah. You couldn't get away with that anymore. Rightfully so. Then in sixth year, my mate, who I'd been in a band with, found and so I Watch You From Afar's first record, and he put me onto that, and that was where I heard Chris Wee doing different time signature stuff, just so powerful. And Chris is a product of Dave Grohl and Jimmy Chamberlain, to boil it down really quickly in my understanding of him. And but with this just power and speed that I was like, oh, that's the next level. That's like just destroying it. And I became obsessed with trying to play like that. And then around the time I found that record, Foo Fighters Live at Wembley came out. And so now I had the whole live Taylor Hawkins experience. So that was the kind of trajectory off the top of my head of the albums and drummers that like were very important markers along the way. And then also the other one was the Dave Weckl, Vinnie Colaiuta, and Steve Gadd trio solo. Do you know that
Zildjian
one?
Day. Yeah. Is that
You know
Zildjian Day or
no,
the
it's the
Buddy
Buddy
Rich?
Rich Memorial.
Yeah. Oh
Yeah,
man. Like Gad
that's
played out of his skin that day.
crazy, crazy. So that yeah, that was the drumming universe in and around it. Because yeah, there was like Chili Peppers I listened to, but I didn't lose myself to the drums. Led Zeppelin listened to, but I wasn't ready for all of that yet. I didn't want to know, because everyone
Yeah.
was like, John Bonham holds it down so much, and I was like, nah, I want to go crazy. Keith Moon's my vibe.
Yeah.
So I came back to Bonham later, and through the Buddy Rich Memorial, found Buddy Rich, and that was also, and because I was using his sticks, I was like, he is it. But it was those like Rage Against the Machine as well, Linkin Park, um, I don't know, loads of stuff. But it was those four that I can remember vividly being mesmerized by the drumming and the sound of the drums and what the drums were doing more so than anything else.
Man, that's
Yeah.
incredible. That's some journey. That's a
It
great journey.
I haven't laid it out like that. And now as I say it, I'm like, oh, it makes sense actually. I see it in my playing. I see, so say when you're like, you just do your own thing and you do it your way. I'm like, Keith Moon. That's the line to Keith Moon. Then when it comes to like technical and all flashy stuff, I'm like, that's between Taylor and Jimmy Chamberlain. And then the power and like hitting is Dave Grohl and Chris Wee. So that makes sense to me.
The
Yeah.
ferocity. When you unleash the beast, let the tiger off the chain and let him go.
Let him do what he needs to do.
It was something I had mentioned to you off camera. When you talk about your influences there, Micheál, and how they have shaped the way you play, in a world that social media is leading at the minute for everyone to be somebody else, wanting to be somebody else, and try and imitate another player, I feel you do a fantastic job of being yourself and just being Micheál.
Well, when you put it like that, say of wanting to sound like someone else, because of the way Instagram works, I don't think that'd work anymore even. If you were, say you started putting up videos and you were trying to be like Ash Sohn, everyone who sees it, I'm like, oh, you're doing the Ash thing. This is actually, Mike Johnson said this once at a drum camp. The goal of a drummer is to become an adjective. if you can become an adjective as a drummer, and I think it applies to a lot in life, but I
That's
like it with,
so cool.
isn't that a good one? Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think with Instagram, those people are right there. Ashton is literally on his phone putting it up at the same time as you. So if you're trying to imitate him, you're just doing that thing, and everyone will be like, well, then I'll go look at Ash do it. Same with like Tony Royster. If someone was doing all his exercises and stuff and putting that up, I'd be like, well, I'll go watch the master at that. So we have access to the greats. And it's like if you're flicking through your phone, you don't want to see the same thing over and over. You do want new stimulation. So I think maybe that forces people to have to be creative and come up with their own thing to stand out. But aside from that, I think naturally, yeah, I just want to say what I have to say. I mean, like, this is what I think. Whether or not it's right or wrong or important or not, it's what's happening from this point of view, and I'd like to share that. And the drums are a great medium for sharing that. But yeah, you got like this, and like when you look around, if you're paying attention to artists like visual artists and directors making movies and writers and books and poets, the ones who are like the ones you gravitate towards the most are the ones who certainly feel like they're doing their own thing. Like I'm sure people have mastered making it look like they're doing their own thing and just marketing and manipulating it, but the ones who seem like they're doing it their way or the ones who like get out ahead and make a bit of noise seem to be the ones who are doing it their way and they're like, I found this thing. Yeah, this actually is I think with creativity it's an exploration we're all doing, and so it's up to everyone to pick up the thing they found, but like, look at this shiny rock I found. Like it was because I was standing here that I found this one.
Yeah.
And everyone finds stuff, man. Everyone is finding stuff, everyone has wisdom, everyone has wonderful things to share. And I think it's important because everyone's life is so different. We're all picking up different stuff the whole time. You're made up of all these different experiences, so you might as well lean into that. Um, at least, hopefully, with a good ethos and a good moral compass and ethics system. But I think doing it your own way is probably good for people. I like it anyway. I like to do what I'm feeling.
Man, that's super cool that you say that. And that definitely comes across in your playing, your delivery, your drum cam footage, even your vulnerability at times with what you share on social media as an open book journal at times. Just being unapologetically you. It's very admirable.
Well, I think that whole thing started literally because I started posting videos when I was on tour with Dermot. That's when it really started. And I'd wake up in my bunk and I'd be in this little coffin isolated from the world. So Instagram didn't feel very real. It didn't feel like there was other people reading it. It felt more like I could just say what I thought and just put it out there. And I didn't engage too much with the fact that it was I was being vulnerable or anything. I was just like writing my thoughts down to get them out of my system. And then but lately I've migrated that into my notes and I don't post so much that sort of stuff on Instagram anymore. Partly because of just the way of the world and everything at the moment. I'm like, if I'm like trying to dissect this thing and it's just a feeling and it's just a set of emotions I'm experiencing, I don't know if that's that much. Is that the best use of my time? And is that the best offering to other people in their time? Like everyone has an amount of time. If someone's sitting there reading it, I'm like, it's the same. Like we're learning, we're growing. We're learning, we're growing. You find bits of wisdom along the way. We're learning, we're growing. And so these days I shy away from, I might type some stuff. There's days I've typed big long paragraphs and then I just delete it. I'm like, post the video and say, in Leon, sick. It feels more fitting at the moment because there's more important stuff going on than me demanding attention for that. And also, I'd like to think if I was to make other work that I was more invested in and meant more to me, I want people to pay attention to that more than just the little thoughts going on through my head about this specific thing. For the moment, anyway, in life.
For sure, man. That's a great observation and a great read of all of that. Talking about creativity, you had a killer first solo project and album that came out. And is there going to be more of that on the way?
Man, that's the other thing I'm doing this evening. So, I accidentally wrote the second album. And I say accidentally because last year, for the whole year, I saw Jamie XX in New York, and I remember it was just one of the best nights I ever had. And afterwards, I was like, I want to make my own version of that. Like whatever that was, I want to make that. And I spent a year doing it. And then at the end of the year, I listened to everything and I was like, well, it's not an album. I haven't made a second album. And obviously, I haven't because I was trying to make a live gig. So then I was like, right, how do I put this out there? Because I don't really feel like doing a gig or being a DJ type person or putting together a live show of any of that music. It's not what I want to do right now. But I was like, well, I should release some of these tunes are good. So I've narrowed it down to an EP. What started as 300 pieces of music got narrowed down to four eventually. And I started finishing that. Then there was a hiccup along the way. One of the people who's on one of the tracks doesn't want to be on it anymore. She just wants to have written it and let someone else, because she's like, I don't like my delivery. It's a rap. It is unreal. She absolutely destroyed it, but she's not happy with it because it's a few years ago. So she was like, I don't want it coming out like that. So I paused the EP for a second. I was like, right, I'll get that finished. But also, I was thinking to myself, people don't really associate me with putting out electronic music. Like, there's a little flavor of it, but not much. So I thought I should get people educated on the fact that there's going to be music coming from me. And what better way to do that than to make a bunch of music? So I was like, all right, I'll make. And I was having a hard time getting out of bed. I was going through a decent depression. And I wasn't getting out of bed in the morning. There was no real reason to get out of bed. I was in that kind of headspace. And I was like, right, I need to find ways to combat this. So I found The Artist's Way, and that's this. It's an amazing workbook for artists and creativity. Dochi is a big proponent of it. She's like, I did it, and then everything skyrocketed. She's a good example of it being implemented and working to the craziest level. But one of the things you have to do is write for 30 minutes every morning, or write 3 A4 pages. I started doing that for a few days, and then I was like, nah, this isn't getting me out of bed. I'm not excited to get up and do this. So then I was like, how about if I set a timer for 30 minutes and just make a piece of music? As soon as I wake up, nothing else matters. I'll just make a piece of music. And then I saved the folder as 365 beats. And I was like, shit, I think I'm planning to do this every day
Yeah.
for a year. And I just did it and I did it. And then after like 5 or 6 days, I was like, wait, I like some of these tunes. Like these are nice. This is a good atmosphere. And so I was like, right, I'll make 12. 12 seems like a logical project. I'll make a mixtape to release before the EP. Just like a collection of ideas that just flows. Nothing's really finished. You know, it's half there. Blah, blah. Then I sat down and I listened to all 12 of them. I was like, nah, I want to keep doing some stuff on these. I like these tunes. Then I started getting lots of friends involved again because I was thinking it was a mixtape. I had this ethos of I'd text someone and be like, you have 24 hours to send me a bit for this piece of music if you want. After the 24 hours, it's gone because I'll have saved it and I'll have just left it alone. And that really made people show up. So I have like voice notes from people throughout it, vocals from a bunch of people, rappers from people on it. It's 12 tracks. And yeah, it's like I'm really happy with it. And it's a diary of sorts. So it tells the exact story of this 12-day period in my life. And then to double down in it, because I like putting on things on YouTube and watching long form things and spacing out to them or leaving a YouTube mix going. I was like, I want to release this on YouTube. That's how I think I want to do this. Just put up on YouTube and like, here's 45 minutes of music to listen to at any point. Even though there's tunes in it, I wouldn't be so precious about it. Like, here's the whole thing. But to do that, I needed a visual. So I started and I was like, right, I'll make a quick little video. And I made a video and I really liked it. And I was like, wait, what if I do a 30-minute video every day as well? Then in 12 days, I'll have a whole movie for the album. It's so much. But so now, as we were, just before we got on the call, I'm finishing up video number 12 and then I'll have all 12 videos done. So I have an album. Once I have it all finished, I think I'm just going to put it out and be like, here's an album. Everyone loves an album. Here's a new album for you. Hang on, I'll see if I play a little bit, will it sound like crazy?
No, I think it normally comes through pretty okay.
Okay, where we go? This one is with Just Wondering. These three lads from Dublin. So that one's like quite. I just showed up at the lads' gaff and was like, right, here's a beat. You've 30 minutes. Let's get a song together. And they just made this beautiful thing on it. Then there's big pump and dance tunes. So that's the vibe. And the theme behind the whole thing is love is listening, and listening is love. So because they were made first thing in the morning, I'd often listen to like talks by Thich Nhat Hanh, who was a Vietnamese Zen Buddhist monk, or like Ram Dass or Alan Watts or people like this, just to ground yourself into reality. Um, but because I was listening to them in the morning, they find their way into the tunes as well. Because I'm like, oh, here, wait, this is what I'll put that one in. And it all started to present itself to me that I was every morning I was listening to talks either on listening, on the breath, on presence, and then that was just bringing me down the root of and love. So then the whole record turned it's quite a established project all of a sudden, even though it was just this silly little thing I was doing for my own mental health.
And
Um,
that's insane. That first track sounds like a Khalid track, something that like you would hear go mainstream,
that's yeah, yeah.
something huge. And then the second dance track, it's like, ladies and gents, get ready for Micheal Quinn set at the Electric Picnic Rave in the Woods. Yeah, the dance
That man,
stage.
yeah, I think it's born out of like when I make music, my philosophy is I'm sitting here and I have to listen to it. So I want to make stuff that I like the sound of because otherwise I'm not going to sit here and listen to it. And so it's all just a product of what I like, but also working quickly because the other record, last year's work, eventually turned into 12 songs. But I was like working so much on them and pulling them apart and piecing loads of tiny little detail work. And they're good songs and all, but these ones just working very fast. There's no time to think, so it was all just instinctive. And I was like, does that make me feel good to start my day? It does. Cool, that's the end of that then. And as a result, I hope that it might make other people feel good because they'll put it on and be like, oh yeah, this is a vibe actually.
Oh
Um,
man, that's you've like got some sort of creativity hack there. Just when
that's
you
I was about
talked
to
about
say.
the 30 minutes setting the timer, I don't think people realize the power of that. And there's a friend of mine introduced me to that method. He's also a beat maker and a hip hop artist. He goes by the name of Miko, and we've had him
Okay.
on the podcast, and we're both huge fans of J. Cole. And he was like, "Man, I was listening to old footage of J. Cole talking about just put on 30 minutes or an hour on the timer and cook a beat and spit a verse or write a verse in 12 minutes and make the beat in a half hour and just go for it and see where it takes you."
It really is the way to do it because I think the laboring part if you want to play it and present it to people, then yeah, you need to sit down and focus and pay attention and figure it out. But if you're just making it, the way music is made now, all the tools are right there. Like you can just fire it out. But I think it's very good for you on the days you don't want to do it to have a very defined cutoff point that you're like, well, even if I'm not feeling this, like it's done in 30 minutes anyway. And nine times out of 10, 30 minutes will hit and you'll be like, oh, I kind of want to keep going here, actually. This is good. But there's a good Japanese method of learning skills that I came across some point along the way. And I apply when I want to learn something new, I apply it to it. And it works like every time. So you go 5 minutes is all you're allowed to do with the thing. So you have to show up and do 5 minutes a day. That's it. No more, no less. So say it's you want to learn a language, 5 minutes is all you do. And you do that for a set period of time, like maybe a week or two. And you'll start to want to go beyond the 5 minutes. You'll be like, I want to, like, this is fun. I want to go to 6 minutes or 10 minutes, but you're not allowed. You have to be very disciplined. Be like, no, that's not what we're doing. And so then by the time it comes to adding 10 minutes, you're frothing to do 10 minutes. And you've tricked your brain essentially into be like, gimme, gimme, gimme. And then 10 minutes you stop and you go, no, we're only, and then the next time you bring it to 30 minutes and you're like, right, now I can sit here for 30 minutes happily doing this thing that seemed like a task at one point. And it like I apply it like I applied it to yoga, I applied it to meditating, I apply it to stick work, I apply it to practicing, like everything. You're just like, if you tell yourself you're not allowed to do it, it just tricks you. Like, well, then I'm gonna do it properly.
Man,
Yeah,
talk about building tension and applying anticipation to learning
yeah.
something new. That is unreal. That's a great method. I haven't heard of that before.
I'll have to look. I'll have to find the name and I'll send it to you. Just for yourself, because like
Yeah, that'd be brilliant.
and then say it works on tour as well. Say I'm like, right, now I got to get ready for a show. Like I'm absolutely beat. I don't have the energy in me. I'm like, right, well, I'll warm up at least on the pad for 5 minutes. we'll do 5 minutes. That's no questions asked. I have to hit the pad for 5 minutes before a gig. But I'll do it like an hour and a half before the show. I'll be like, just do your 5 minutes now and we're good. And every time you're like, ah, well, we're doing it now. Yeah, it really does work. So I apply it to art. If I'm drawing pictures and I haven't drawn in a bit or done paintings, I'll be like, just paint the thing for 5 minutes and then leave it alone. Um, yeah.
Man, that's unreal. And talking about practice, as a fellow disciple of Dave Elich, I couldn't not give Dave a shout out on the podcast. You
Bring
were
Dave in time, yeah.
very, very kind when I reached out to you during COVID in the early stage of it, when I was thinking about buying Dave's drum course, Get Out of Your Own Way. I didn't know anyone else who had bought it, and I wouldn't say skeptical, but just wanted to double check on it. And you were like, man, this has been brilliant. Jump into it. Let's go. Got it. Got through it during COVID. Never looked back. Didn't think twice. What is it that you want to work on now, Micheál, moving forward, practice wise?
That's a good. The my my rudiments. What I've been doing the last 2 weeks is I just have a practice pad and I have this playlist of electronic music that I'm listening to at the moment, and I put it on and a timer, and I'll just work through every sticking thing that comes to mind, and then I'll branch off of that. So say I'll sit down and be like, all right, first thing that comes to mind is single strokes, a minute of single strokes, and during that minute I'll come up with what I do for the next minute. I'm like, oh cool, today we're going to just go to triplets, then 16s, then 16 no triplets, then back, and I'll just do that over the course of 5 minutes. Oh, sorry, my thing's freaking out.
That's all good, man.
And then I'll be like, right, on to double strokes, okay, paradiddles, and all along to the music, just getting faster with each tune. Or if I go into like a crazy fast double strokes, I'll be like, can I hold this for the whole song and keep getting more relaxed as I do it, as you get tense because it's getting harder. Like, right, well, then relax, relax. But yeah, so at the moment, all I'm practicing is just on the practice pad. And it's been great already that I can see the results of 2 weeks worth of work. That when I sit down now, when I'm like, right, let's come up with a new sticking pattern, the creativity is just huge. I'm like, oh, we could go like, blah, 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 and there's just loads of ideas coming to me. But I'm just focusing on the pad and getting my stick work creative and precise.
By the end of this, you'll be releasing your own Wilcoxon snare solo. But man,
Man.
that sounds great.
Yeah, and again, it's you got to find ways to. Well, I certainly have to find ways to make it enjoyable for myself to do it. So I'll put on like music I'm really enjoying at the time, and I'll just play to that and just be like, right, if nothing else, I'm sitting here listening to music I like to listen to, so I'll do that for a while. But no kit work at the moment. I'm happy with where my kit drumming is, but I'm not. I can see another place that I want to go to with just my sticking now. So, and I have the time and space to just sit with a pad for hours on end. So, that's the way I'm going with that. But everything
That's
as well. Dave is in there. Dave Ellis is in the head the entire time, and you're with it. He's the greatest. Yeah,
yeah,
extraordinary.
man, it's something else working with Dave. And for anyone who is skeptical about it or is on the fence or is caught between who they should work with, Dave
Ah,
is definitely worth reaching out to.
yeah. Like even like Benny Greb went to him for a lesson, maybe a couple lessons. Louis Cole's gone to him. Everyone goes to him. But I think like even with what I do, I wouldn't have been able to survive doing it the way I wanted to do it if I hadn't gone to him. He was the anchor. He was like, I see what you're trying to do. I understand why you're trying to do that. Here's how you do that. And so then with the And So I Watch You tour I just did, so much of it was leaning into things I've learned and picked up off Dave. And then the paths he sends you down, he's like, look over there. Like, stop looking there, just look that way a little bit. And you wander off down that path then. And the stuff you find is just extraordinary. He's a treasure. Yeah.
He is for sure, and someone that should be hugely appreciated within the drum circle.
Yeah, 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 definitely. And when like so I've had a few lessons where I'm in the room with him. Once he starts going, you're just like blasted against the other wall. Like
Yeah,
there is no denying this guy. This guy, like, because he can play the way he plays, I'm like, I'll whatever you say, man. Like I can see, you can see it in front of you, and also he is entirely himself. When he plays drums, you could pick him up out of 100 drummers every time.
yeah, Dave is Dave, unapologetically him. He's got his own vibe going on. And look, the Zoom lessons are unreal. But when you can take a lesson with him in person, I had the joy of taking one in Dublin when he
Oh,
came.
unreal, great.
And I was just back from a lad's holiday and hung over as shit, a sweaty mess. I was just a
No.
man, I was a wreck, an absolute wreck. But we got it done, and he fixed some huge things. You know, sitting down at the kit, it's like, man, what's all of this? What's going on here? What's going on there? And you're like, wow, 6 weeks, 8 weeks down the line, getting into those nitty gritty bits. You're like, I'm a different player. I actually feel like a different person.
That's it. It's beyond the drumming, and he says that it's not just drumming; it's life stuff. But yeah, you do. You feel like a different person. He's
I
tapped into something.
I feel all the greats get that coming back to the Aaron Spears thing of, being honest
True.
with yourself and life. It's all synonymous. It all ties in together.
Yeah, I guess you probably can't arrive at those places of being able to communicate yourself, your ideas, and your passion effectively if you don't understand who the person is who's doing that. And that person is you, but if you don't deeply understand yourself, those guys probably have spent enough time so they can. It's probably why, like, they both complement each other and why they're the drummer they are is because they already have a skill set of being able to communicate and understand things and they apply that to drums, but then the drums also humbles them and shows them where they need to get better. Yeah. But then you have Buddy Rich, who's just apparently an absolute maniac.
Oh man, there are a couple of anomalies, aren't there?
But yeah, yeah. Oh, but man, Buddy Rich is drumming. Phew. There's so many great drummers. There's so many great drummers.
I know
Brian,
you're a
Brian Downey. I meant to say Brian Downey as well earlier, actually. Yeah, when we were talking about the journey, Taylor Hawkins, Jimmy Chamberlain, Brian Downey slipped in there somewhere along the way, but he was far beyond my ability when I came across him.
I couldn't agree more. Same thing, 15, 16. People are like, can you learn these songs for a covers gig or the set we're playing? And at the time had to be very meticulous and wanted to learn it note for note. And
Uh-huh.
I'd be listening to certain Brian Downey songs. I'm like, no way.
Like just absolutely not. It's just not. That's not an option right now.
Yeah,
And
well,
then like, he was like a lad in Dublin in the 70s, in his 20s, knocking that out. Like
yeah.
it's just mind blowing. No one has touched that since on this island. Like no one's delivered those performances.
Yeah, he's got his own thing going on and he's influenced countless players. Like a lot of people wouldn't know that, but John Theodore was a massive Thin Lizzy guy.
No way.
Yeah, hugely inspired by Thin Lizzy. And somebody had said that off the back of, I can't remember exactly where it was. And it was like, oh, it's like Thin Lizzy on steroids, the early Volta stuff. And
That
I
yeah, that made me want to go back to listen to the Volta stuff now and be like, oh,
I
because
believe
I
he
wouldn't
was
have.
hugely influenced by Brian.
That's very cool. We like that.
Super cool, isn't it? It'll be cool to see him in town when Queens come to town in August if
Are
you're
you going?
yeah, I can't wait.
Yeah, yeah, I'll be at that as well. That's
That,
gonna
that'll
be that's gonna be unreal.
that'll be a killer show. So I
Yeah.
am a bit of a drum gear nut, as I'm sure you've found over the years when I just hit you randomly with stuff or gear or bits and pieces. But
I'll do my best with this next section then.
I have to ask you, what is that sound for you, Micheál, when you think of the 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 pinnacle of drums, the sound? What is it? Be it a snare or a record that you reference and you're like, man, that's it.
my mind is flooding. I'll like let out some of the things and see if we find what I think. So there's the drums. For some reason, the drum sound on One by One by Foo Fighters. It could just be because of the whole story around it that I have, because it's not particularly the greatest drum sound, but I just love it. It's so tactile. There's so much texture to it. The toms don't sound particularly amazing, whether it was they weren't recorded the best or they weren't tuned the best, but they sound exactly where they should be,
Yes.
is flawless. Um, Gangs, the And So I Watch You From Afar record, that second record, the drum sound of that. I'm just gonna say those three records, the Siamese Dream, the drum sounds and that. John Bonham's drum sound, obviously, that light but hefty drum sound, his stuff. Steve Jordan on is it Battle Studies, the John Mayer album
Yeah.
Battle.
Assassin. I know you're a
Yeah.
big
Oh, there we go.
lover of
That's
that.
the one. Oh, what? What? That sounds like better than being in the room with the drum kit. Like that sounds like you're playing the drum kit.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Steve's the man.
Steve is Steve. Yeah, yeah.
Steve is the man. Like, talk about just a rock star.
Yeah, yeah. I've heard stories about him. They're like, oh, you like that takes a special breed to be able to operate that cool.
Yeah, he just is up in a whole other stratosphere of his own.
Yeah. He has a bit on one of his DVDs where he says if you can't play for 10 minutes straight, you're missing the point.
Yeah.
And I think every drummer should be aware of that, that's very important to think about.
I'll tell you a funny story. I'm not going to name who it was, but I had a conversation with a guy one day, a good drummer, someone I thought was a really good drummer. And I talked to him about Steve Jordan, and he's like, I used to be on a big Steve Jordan buzz, but he's like, I don't want to listen to him just play, meat and potatoes and bump and
Oh
chat and bump,
no.
bump, chat. And conversation was over about 3 minutes later, and I just went home.
Oh,
It was
I
like,
just feel like I'm so
no,
sorry, man.
no, no, I can't do this. I can't do it.
Yeah, yeah, that's a bummer. Yeah, Steve Jordan. So
We'll go.
his stuff on John Mayer. I'm trying to think what like there's a bunch of hip hop like Illmatic by Nas. The sound,
Oh,
all the
yeah.
different drum samples on that. The Way I Am by Eminem. I love the sampling that. Dr. Dre's drum sounds. I like a lot of that. Outkast, a lot of their drum sounds. So I guess wherever they're getting their samples from and whatever they're doing to them, I like. But like I don't know. See, I don't know how much of it. I know when I love a drum sound, but whether or not I know it's the most amazing drum sound, I'm not sure. Foles' first record, I love the sound of the drums on that record.
I must check that one out.
This one I know for a fact is one of the best drum sounds. Kings of Leon, uh, Come Around Sundown. The drum sound on that album is, I don't know where it was recorded, but it's just that pure, like either LA or Nashville, high fidelity, warm drum sound. And the record opens with just a drum beat. And put that on with some good headphones, and it's the richness of the drum kit is mwah.
I'll have to check those out, man. There's some killer recommendations.
Yeah, yeah, get into those. And like, because again, I don't know how amazing the drum sounds are across that whole board, but I love the sound of all those drums. All those ones speak to me of like, if you told me I could have my drums sound like anything, I'd be like, one of these. This is the way I want to go.
Yeah, man, I would do a lot of things. I'd be very happy to get inside Steve Jordan's gear locker to see all the different snares, the kits, the cymbals, and even to see his approach. I listened to a really cool podcast. Dave was on some podcast, be it 7 or 8 years ago, and he talked about the band he went on tour with, supported Mayer, and he got to watch Steve stage side every night. And he was like, everything is intentional, down to like, will I bury the beater? How hard will I bury it? Will I let it off? Will I let the stick into the head? Will I let it come off on the snare? All of this wild stuff where you're like, oh man,
That's
how
so sick.
how cool would that be?
It'd be mind melting. You wouldn't know what to do with yourself.
Yeah, I'd probably go crazy. Be
Yeah.
away talking your own language for talking drummer talk for 2 or 3 weeks after seeing that.
And I wonder, would he like would he engage in it, or is he just like, nah, I'm cool out, man, like all good, or would he indulge?
I think Steve would be one of those guys. It's like the videos they done for the Inside Blackbird series. He's like, if you want to get this sound, like the Ringo sound, you got to put the towels on and detune these lugs. He's like, this is how you get it.
True, yeah, yeah. He would share his information just because he knows it,
Oh man, what a legend.
dude.
So I'm gonna go to question time before we wrap it up. Just something cool. If you had a recommendation or your favorite book, record, and movie,
Okay, okay.
you
My
can have a
favorite.
top. You can have a top three if you want. If one is too marginal.
We'll figure it because I'm not like I generally pick what I'm on at the time, um, and that's where I go. But if I have to pick a favorite, okay, record, Snarky Puppy, Ground Up. Yeah, that has Skate You and Slow Demon and Flood on it. I think that's my favorite record. There's loads like John Hopkins, Immunity, Moderat, their first record, Bon Iver. But we'll go with Snarky Puppy. Snarky Puppy wins today. Book. Where we go? I don't know if this is cheating. I have a small little copy of the Tao Te Ching, which is the Taoist textbook, and it's a little black pocket-sized notebook, and I carry that everywhere. And that's my favorite book, but it's not really it's a book, but it's more like a text. So book, what have I read? Um, Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance. I was talking about that yesterday. Yeah, yeah. Go read Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance.
Great
That,
book.
yeah, yeah. That's a mammoth of one. It's on my desk there, and I was talking to somebody yesterday. So that's or Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas.
Okay, very good.
Yeah,
Must
yeah, yeah.
check that one out.
Oh man. So what you want to do, what I like to do when I've read that one a couple times, I'll watch Johnny Depp doing Hunter S. Thompson, and then I go back to the book and you read the book at that pace, and you're like, and I'm like, this is how it should be read. Like you're skipping over words trying to keep up with what you're like, what's going on? So yeah, we'll put those two in. And then movie. Um I feel like I saw some recently that was the best movie I ever saw. What was it? See, we can just rely on the old faithful of Toy Story.
Oh man.
We
That
can
that's
just leave-
so good. I think you love this story. I traveled Asia in the summer of 2019 when Toy Story 4 was released, and I knew that it wouldn't be in cinema by the time I got home. So I was in Ho Chi Minh City in Vietnam and staying away from the main square. And the person I was with at the time, I was like, I gotta go see Toy Story 4. And they're like, are you for real? I was like, yeah, I'm not joking. So
Amazing.
anyway, I had to get up and walk like 7K to the nearest shopping center that had an English speaking cinema up to the top floor. It was like the fourth or the fifth floor. Popcorn, Coke, in
Unreal.
right in time for the movie to start, and it was absolutely class.
Commitment. That's what Pixar needs.
Yeah,
That
it's
commitment.
it's one thing I'll always remember. It was so good.
That's class. I'm glad you got to see it in the cinema. That was a good cinema movie.
Oh man, it was brilliant. It was brilliant.
I'm going to throw a curveball. So we're going to do two of each because I've decided that. That we
Okay,
have
cool. Let's do it.
we have Snarky Puppy and then we have John Hop. No, Moderat. Snarky Puppy, Ground Up, Moderat album one. Books, Day Day Ching and Zen. No, Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas and Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance. And then movies, Toy Story and oh, it's time to go. Apocalypse Now.
Oh, brilliant. I haven't
Yeah.
watched that film, so I'm gonna have to
Oh
check
man,
it out.
dude, it's the film. It's just it's yeah, it's extraordinary. I remember with the first time I watched it, as soon as it ended, I was like, "Put that back on right fucking now. We need to watch that again." What was that? How, like what? Yeah, that's a extraordinary movie.
Oh man, that's a great list.
There you
There's some serious knowledge in there for anyone listening, man. You're after dropping some serious knowledge bombs.
just go
Where
check out those things.
where can people find you, Micheál?
Instagram is the best place. mquinn211. And then I have a website, michealquinn.com, and you'll see all the different things I'm doing. I try get them up there. But yeah, Instagram's the my most active place, I guess.
Yeah, be sure to check Micheál out. If you catch him at a show this year, go say hi, especially if you're a drummer. And if you see his old fella at a show, make sure to buy him a pint.
That's more important. Yeah, if you see me, just figure out if my dad's nearby or not, and beeline it for my dad.
Micheál, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for taking the time out of your evening to chat with us.
Great chats. Great chats.
Thank you, man.